This past season, we partnered with Skidoo and put on what we were calling the Reach for the Summit Sweepstakes, which was a really unique contest with over 15,000 entries. And the winner got a chance to go out to CKMP in British Columbia, Canada, and ride with Kuster, Tony Jenkins, and Rob Alford. And I gotta admit, I'm really excited about this trip as well. I mean, it's been a number of years since AJ and I both were at CKMP together. We've both been there apart on a number of occasions. So this opportunity to go to CKMP and ride with these pros and hang out with Carl for a bit was an exciting one.
When you're going to CKMP, you've got to fly into Kelowna, BC, and that's exactly where we went to. We got in before the winner did, and so we grabbed our rental car and waited around for him.
We are looking for our Reach for the Summit winner. His name's Elliot. We've never met other than on the phone, so I'm not 100% sure what he looks like, but I figure he'll probably recognize me, and hopefully that'll just solve the problem entirely.
So flying into Kelowna was actually really beautiful. I got a window seat and looking at all the mountains, looking at the terrain I'd be riding in. Still didn't feel real until I landed, went through customs.
Luke Kuster, pleasure to meet you.
Yep, this is actually happening, and the camera guy right there.
Don AJ's just waiting in the car out in the parking lot there. We got to talking, and I learned a few things about him. You know, I could tell he was a passionate guy and loves riding. And he's from Wisconsin. He does have a mountain sled, and he rides that in the UP of Michigan. So he's got some experience, you know, getting the sled on its side and getting stuck.
When he did arrive, I mean, even just him walking up to the truck, the smile was like ear to ear.
Have you ever been up to BC before?
Nope, this is my first time.
Have you been to Canada before? I'm gonna say.
I've been through Toronto.
Okay. Came up, got some maple syrup,
Oh yeah.
had some Tim Hortons, full Canadian experience.
On the drive in from Kelowna to Malacqua, sitting in the truck with you guys was just surreal, because I see you guys on snow tracks all the time, and you know, you guys are two average guys.
It was really refreshing for me to spend this time with a guy who's so overjoyed and just super excited to be doing what we're doing. I mean, that's what this is all about. When you arrive at CKMP, sometimes it's just a little bit overwhelming from the outside, and I mean that respectfully.
On the outside, it just kind of looks like a really big shed. I mean, there's 2 garage doors and a door on the side, and you know, a couple signs. And
as soon as we opened the man door to go into the basement shop area and Elliot walked through, I mean, it was just like, you know, eyes as big as saucers, and you could tell he was like, whoa, this is cool.
It's pretty cool, eh?
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's got guys who work here full time, and all they do is keep these sleds running when he's got groups in and stuff gets busted or whatever.
going upstairs into the actual dining room and bar, kitchen, it's clean, well kept. Bedrooms are awesome. Showers are awesome. When I got here, I was just absolutely blown away. The pictures on the website really do not do this place justice.
One thing that they do right at CKMP is food, like gourmet first class. So we had Elliot all ramped up for an amazing dinner and didn't disappoint. But I think for him, the best part of dinner was when Kuster walked right up to him and shook his hand and introduced himself.
We were just getting settled in for dinner, and he came walking through the door, and my eyes just lit up. And I was like, that's Kuster. Like, you know, it was awesome. He just walked right up to me and was like, hey, what's going on? You know, that's happening right now. It's just absolutely amazing.
I like the contest because when the people come, they've been always so excited, and it really is something, doesn't matter if it's winning a trip snowmobiling or winning a Hot Wheels car or whatever. If you've won something, it's like, you know, how often do you get that nowadays, right? So to come out and do something super special, riding in the mountains, like, and see that scenery and feel the rush of going up and down the mountains on snowmobiles, I gotta imagine that that's a pretty special feeling.
So we've woken up to an absolutely beautiful morning. It was sunny outside, but still very cold, so things were tight. We were a little bit slow going.
And after breakfast, it was time for us to take Elliot, the Reach for the Summit winner, for his first day of riding.
You know, I was jittering, ready to go outside, and I was probably had my gear on before anyone else, and that's when I got to meet Rob. Just walked up, shook my hand, how's it going? You excited? Meeting Tony for the first time, same kind of guy, just walked up, shook my hand.
Talk about an incredible experience to where you can have your entire trip paid for, and you come out here and ride with all of us.
You know, when you're meeting someone you never met before, you never know what to expect, but meeting Elliot, he had a permanent grin on his face from the first time I met him, and You could obviously see he really appreciated winning the contest. Being able to come out with me and Tony and Carl ride and just, realize that we're just everyday guys that just love the mountains.
We didn't know anything about Elliot at all or any background, so sometimes it's a little bit hard to pick what you're going to do or where you're going to go or what sled you should even put him on. He's coming off another brand, and I think he was really excited to hop on, a new Summit.
Dude, I'm pumped. I got the sled picked out. Gonna go rip with the guys. So before we went out, Carl actually spent a good hour with us outside going over Avalanche safety. He went through step by step, making sure how you track a beacon properly, and when you actually find someone under the snow, being able to mark it and probe it correctly so that way you save time and less effort trying to dig.
And as we were climbing up the side of the mountain in the truck, the conditions started looking better and better until we got to the unload point where there was just tons of snow. And at that point, I think we all knew this was going to be a good day.
Getting the sleds unloaded, I'm giggling like a schoolgirl.
So what I really have in mind for Elliot is we want to take him up someplace that's nice and high where the snow is still cold. There's a big glacier that's mellow with some really steep walls that are north-facing and shaded, probably the last massive powder field left.
Oh, that's a lineup.
If how he's been acting this morning is any indication, I think he's going to just blow his mind today. I think he's going to lose it. He's like shaking. He's so excited, so.
I was just kind of following the guys, and every time we'd stop, they just go, all right, we're going to go up this. I'm like, another big hill. I mean, the hills here, they're not hills. These are mountains. It's incredible to see these guys go up, and then, it's my turn. I got to go up. And sure enough, I'm heading up just behind them. By the time you look back, you're just like, I just went up that. And that's bigger than everything I even imagined doing when I came here. It was amazing. You look back a little bit, and you're just like, there's no way I'm up this high. Like, it's surreal.
This was the furthest point out I have ever been with Carl, and he was determined that we were going to make it to this glacier.
We got to a point, and Carl just looked up, and he goes, we're going up there. And I was like, what?
And then you look up, and it's like another 1,000-foot elevation climb.
He's like, no, we're going up there no matter what.
Go across that fence, then I only have to climb up, and then I'm going to have a hang a left, and then it kind of gives me room to have momentum, and then...
It took me 3 times to get up there. First time I had to turn back. Second time I got stuck mid-run. And each time they'd come down, you're doing this wrong or you're doing that wrong. Just simplify it.
And I thought it was going to be a gong show. But at the end of the day, Carl knows what he's doing. Tony and Rob, they know what they're doing. And they said, we can do it. And they weren't lying. We got up the side of that hill. And when we got to the top, man, Elliot was just beaming. It was the most extreme thing he's ever done. And he was super proud of himself.
Yeah, buddy.
Your biggest climb, I'm sure?
Oh, yeah. Once I got up to the top, it was just this surreal feel of accomplishment. I mean, looking back at what I just conquered, not only just that one run, but the 10 runs before it, and just thinking that I just did all of those.
All of the struggle to get there was 100% worth it. Carl wasn't lying about how incredible this spot was. You could see for not just miles, but like tens of miles. You could see 3 mountain ranges over. It's one of the most beautiful spots I've ever seen in all of the mountain riding I've ever done. And the funny part about it was as we were sitting up there and we're all reveling in how incredible this is and this sense of accomplishment for us all getting there, Carl says, okay, the riding area I want to ride is on the other side, but before we go over there, we're going to go up even further to the next spot and then jump off a cornice to get into the valley we want to actually ride in. And AJ and I are like, come on. When I look over at Elliot and he's just like, oh no, more. And you couldn't even see where you were going to be landing. It was so steep. And I look over at Tony and Rob and they're excited because this is what they do. And they're thinking about, oh, how far can I jump?
And we just kind of, popped over one at a time. And it was pretty cool because it seemed like we were going somewhere that not many other people had been and somewhere that Carl doesn't take too many people.
Carl and Rob and Tony were just like, just ease into it and you'll be fine. Sure enough, eased in over the top and down we went. And it just turned into just absolute perfectness. It was everything I could have ever dreamed of. Snow coming up over the top of the hood, kind of getting face washed and just That was everything I could have dreamed this trip would be.
He turned to me and he said, that's what I've dreamed about doing my entire life, is that exact thing that we just did. And I think at that point we could have left and he would have been completely satisfied.
But it was fun to be able to do that as brothers at the end of a season and, you know, go out and ride together and enjoy this, and then have Elliot jump along and follow us on some of these lines, which I think we may have been pushing his limits a few times. He didn't tell us till afterwards. I'm glad that we did finally crest that peak at the top of the mountain, get over the backside and find this fresh stuff, because that's the kind of story that Elliot's gonna have for the rest of his life.
The name of this contest was Reach for the Summit, and that's what we really wanted to achieve. On day 2, Carl had a spot picked out for us that was a little lower down the mountain, a little easier to get to, but had some really cool features. Day 1 of our Reach for the Summit sweepstakes fulfillment was perfect. We got Elliot to the summit of a mountain, and we accomplished exactly what this contest was meant to accomplish. For day 2, AJ and I really wanted to show Elliot the type of riding we like to do most.
Typically when we go out and film, we don't get this kind of weather. Luke was feeling good, I was feeling good, Elliot was beyond amped.
We loaded back up, headed back out on the mountain, and Carl had a pretty cool spot picked out for us that day.
I started snowmobiling at a young age, but it was mostly just trail riding, 440, MX, ZX. Just this year, I started with the mountain category. Me and some friends went to Togety Pass, Wyoming, and that was my first time ever being in the mountains. I won this trip, and so this is the second time me ever being in the Rocky Mountains.
Like a trailer jungle gym.
On the way there, I mean, it's nothing but gorgeous. The mountain ranges and just the vistas. I mean, you're standing up at like 6,000 to 8,000 feet looking out over what seems to be the entire world.
Our one camera guy, Graham, he managed to find a creek.
I pulled out into this one field and nobody had touched it. I end up ripping through, going off this one powder pillow, and I bounce over this deep trough. I didn't look down to see how deep it was, but as I turned back around, I realized that one of our camera guys, Graham, had been following me.
You know, our camera guys are good riders and they can hold their own, and we make them go in places that are, well, they have to go everywhere we go, so that says a lot.
And the sled is completely perfectly just augured right in.
What'd you do? Hit the brakes?
I was just off to his left, probably about maybe 50 yards, and I actually watched him hit it and go down, and I was like, this ain't good.
Graham's, how would you call that? It was a creek performance or was it a flat meadow performance? Hard to say.
So I grabbed my my mountain pack, you know, took everything off, pulled out my shovel, and I thought, all right, you know, we're not gonna pull this thing up because it's just way too picking far down.
I look over the edge and it's like, that sled is 15 feet to the bottom. How do you get this out?
Once we figured out that we could, you know, I could throw this thing down in the bottom of this hole and then maybe carve away at the tunnel that was excavated underneath, which was about 5 feet across and 4.5 feet tall.
We've been looking for the group, and they're right here. They're in a hole. I don't know if they're testing snowpack or fishing. We can't decide.
Graham, you did something even these guys have never seen before.
Yeah.
And Graham was just standing there, and I think at first he was thinking, wonder if they're just gonna throw snowballs at me on this side of the creek. And the worst part is I think he lost his sandwich, flew out the top of the thing. So now he's gonna starve and he's almost gonna die. So on the 175, I just backed down and built the highway down to the creek, reverse, forward, reverse. They drove it, and AJ drove it actually under a tunnel.
Ripped it out from underneath this tunnel, got it back up on top, and I think probably in about 20 minutes we were done.
It's just amazing to watch these guys work in sync and just click.
It was hilarious. At the end of the day, it was hilarious. No harm, no foul. Something to talk about, and Graham to tell his kids about in the future someday.
Ready? Thanks, guys.
So after we got Graham unstuck, and our goal was to head out and find some kind of another peak in the Alpine or some kind of a bowl, somewhere that we could play around that was, you know, safe, the snowpack was good, and we had some fresh powder. We found this wicked bowl, and it had really nice side hill exposure on both sides, so Elliot could go out and kind of practice his side hilling and really get the feel for what the Skidoo sled does over his sled.
As soon as AJ and I rolled up into this field, it was just an endless supply of cool features and possible booters and things to do. So we didn't even waste any time. We just immediately went out and tried to find stuff. And it just became this sort of train of somebody finding something, everybody going and hitting it. Another person taking off finding something else, everybody going and trying it.
I think we were all reliving a little bit of the old snowcross glory, you know. It was like, if you could build a dream snowcross track, that's where you'd build it, is up in the Alpine with all these different features. Because anything you can think of, your imagination is really the only limiting factor. You can do whatever you want up there.
So riding the Summit 850X for the first time, just about what I expected from a Skidoo. Watching the reviews on snow tracks, kind of knew what I was getting myself into on the snowmobile. And being able to just side hill, climb, was truly impressive. Wide open throttle, up a hill, and just being completely in control. I'd come off a little bit of a heavier sled, and being able to just throw my weight in one side of the other, and it just climbed. Car side to side, doing those beautiful S-turns. The sled just worked.
And he was having a great time. He was getting stuck quite a bit, but I think he was having fun nonetheless. And I think Tony went over and was sort of guiding him a bunch and giving him some really good pointers and helping him through. Elliot was able to do some wicked wheelies and just, I think, really feel how much a light two-stroke sled performs and delivers in the mountains.
I think it's a powerhouse. I come from a turboed sled, and this thing just pulls. It's amazing. I love it. And it's super flickable. Might try to fit it in the baggage claim. Let's see.
Luke and I were doing the exact same thing, feeling the performance of the 850 Summits. We were on free rides, so that was pretty cool. And we found these nice little hip jumps and a couple of big drifted cornice built up areas that we could ramp off of. And he goes and hits something, and then I gotta go and I gotta hit it bigger. Carl and Tony and Rob, everybody kind of joined in and started hitting things.
Watching these guys, I just kind of sat there and just watched all of them just send it. Jump in and doing huge powder hooks, side hilling these huge mountains. Following them on social media is one thing, seeing what they can do in 30-second clips, but actually being there, sitting on the bottom of the hill and just watching these guys do some incredible things. I mean, I could sit there all day and just watch these guys ride.
I had my camera out, so I got some awesome pictures of them jumping, and it seemed like since they're on like rental sleds or something, they were just beating the hell out of those things, so I don't know. Yeah, good riders though. A little bit late on that one, but.
It's a real honor to be able to ride with Carl Kuster. I mean, when Carl Kuster knows your first name and comes up and wants to take you for a ride, I mean, that means a lot, it really does. And I was excited for it, just figuring what can I learn following this guy around. So we took off up the side of the hill, up the side of the mountain, until we finally came to the edge of a pretty serious cornice. I'd say it was probably 18, 20 feet straight down. And I'd never dropped a cornice that big before. I've dropped off the edge of some cornices, but never anything like that. And he didn't even stop. I didn't know where we were. I had to follow him because I had no idea where we were going. So when he dropped off the edge, man, I just figured if he can do it, I can do it. And I launched it.
Carl will get you on, he gets you out of your comfort level. It doesn't matter what kind of riding level ability you have. He puts you in that spot. Oh, you can't back up. Guess you're gonna have to drive off forward.
Actually being here, riding with these guys, I couldn't have asked for anything better. Is more than what I expected. Everything from the hospitality, the food, the equipment, riding areas. I mean, it is just far and beyond what I expected.
I mean, this guy is gonna go back with memories that he'll never forget. And he's gonna be telling all of his friends and bragging about it.
Elliott's riding, he did good. From a guy who hasn't been in the mountains much, he just manned up, held her pin when we told him to, and it made me realize how much I take for granted the mountains that we're in here, because I'm out here every day, and then you got to realize that it takes years of experience to get to that level.
It was great to see the progression that he'd made over just 2 days of this contest, riding with the group. He went from a good mountain rider, and I was impressed with his abilities, to a much better mountain rider. And I think when he goes back and rides with his buddies at home, they're going to be blown away about how much he learned. I really have to say that my favorite part of this stuff is just watching somebody like him, somebody who's so passionate about snowmobiling, somebody who just loves to be on the snow and just wants to ride a snowmobile, have an experience like that and get to do those things, and seeing the smile on his face, listening to him laugh inside of his helmet.
You having fun yet?
I just knew he was having the time of his life, and I get to live vicariously through that.
It almost reinvigorates my passion each and every time I get to do this, and just makes me that much more excited to go out and swing a leg over a sled and go slay some fresh snow.
So being able to actually come out to this facility, hanging out with Tony, Rob, Carl, the guys from Snow Tracks, it was just an absolute treat. It was much more than what I expected, and I cannot thank them enough. Can I win again?
If you enjoyed the video that you just watched, like it, and then subscribe to our page for more great content from Snow Tracks TV.